Blog Talk Radio.
Peace. Good day, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. Welcome to another episode of this uncompromising truth that you are witnessing, that you are experiencing. It is unmovable. It is unshakable. You cannot refute it. It's not my opinion. It is the God's honest truth that majority of Black America is afraid of, because if they decided to finally apply it to their life, 90% of what they're experiencing, all the problems that they're experiencing, will be over. Yes. I'm going to say some things to you today. One, I never said it like this before. Two, it will be a shock unto you. Number three, then you can do with it what you wish, but you will know the truth to such a degree today that you have not ever known it before. Now, before I say this, there are Black leaders and speakers. There are Black YouTubers and podcast makers. They be over here listening to my teachings, and without giving me any credit, they say, hey, this comes from this brother's teachings. Oh, the reformer said this. Oh, I got this from his channel by listening to one of his videos, or reading some of his literature, or listening to a podcast. And so, therefore, there's a lot more than you would believe. Some very national, some is international, some is local. And they take my teachings, my words, and then act like it's theirs. And they just start speaking on it without knowing the ifs, ands, and buts about how I came to that conclusion. And they would take it and then try to use it. Now, when a person takes my teachings, my philosophical statements and talking points and so on and so forth, you would know that it's me. I know my stuff. And I could hear many YouTubers, some that are Hebrew Israelites, some that are Black Muslims, some that are Pan-Africanists and pro-Blacks, that's in the conscious community and so on and so forth. They do not have an idle word of their own of originality, but they are around stealing as though they came up with that thought, as though they are originators of concepts, as though they have that much brain power, as though they are that enlightened, that they know the ifs, ands, and buts about a subject. Now, there are brilliant people. I don't take nothing from nobody. I don't steal anybody's teachings. I can read, I can study it, because of what the Lord himself has revealed to me. I can easily look in somebody's teachings and I can tell you the truths and the falsehoods in there. I can tell you what's in the Quran and what's in the Bible. what could be applied and what cannot be applied. And then take both of those books and compare them to other people's teachings. And I can show you all the holes in everybody's teachings, which makes them disingenuous. But they're not going to tell you the truth about their teachings. They're not going to tell you the truth. They're not going to tell you that using their teachings and their leaders know that what they're saying is bullshit. And all they're doing is acting like a virus in a computer system. Before I delve deep, let me bring you greetings from the Lord Akhenaten, the Lady Nefertiti, and from our illuminating and dazzling, beautiful Creator as He shines His light upon us, the Most High, from on high, that sustains everything, that gives life to everything, that gives law unto everything, that gives love and life unto everything, from the illustrious rays of the sun. Every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, coming out of the atom. And with that, let me greet you in the languages of Scripture in peace by saying in the Amharic language, we say it as salam. In the Arabic language, we say salam. And in the Hebrew Aramaic, we say shalom. And that simply means peace. No, I don't greet with Hotep. Who the hell told you that the ancient Egyptians went around greeting themselves with Hotep? Who told you that? And all those languages that I just mentioned comes out of Egypt. Come out of one of the different scripts of Egypt. And they have 4 main scripts. So if all of those start with an S and sound similar, shalom, salam, salam, how the hell the ancient Egyptians going to be saying Hotep? See? But somebody, they can go around publishing this, and you'll think that this is the truth. And it's a lie. It's a lie. For starters, I don't say black power because I don't believe in the power of a color. There is no power in a color. There's no power. We have been led down a path of foolishness. And now you're looking like fools to the whole world. And you know why? For one simple reason. You have a rating system. Your mind, your heart. Your heart is the seat of the soul that connects to memory in the mind, in the brain. And a lot of your memory was scrubbed clean. Things was installed on the computer of your mind and your heart, your spirit and soul. Certain things was installed in you. Your mind, your existence, you as an individual. Look at yourself in this, for this speech, as a laptop. No matter what kind. You could be iOS or Linux or just Windows. Doesn't matter. But most of the references I will be making to will be to Windows. You can be Windows Vista. Black people right now is operating like a Windows 7 computer. Now, you know the world right now is on Windows 10 and Windows 11. The most popular computers that's being bought today is Windows 10 and Windows 11. They have moved on. They have moved on in a lot of things, where people is not even engaging in white supremacy. Why? Because the new phase to make it inclusive for all races of people, they switched it up on you and moved to globalization. And y'all still dealing with white supremacy. And then when they show you pictures of white supremacists, there's always those that looks like they came out of the days of Hitler and the SS and so on and so forth. You know what I mean? The real poor whites that's still going around, with their hands up in the air and, and still using the N-word in a negative way and that kind of stuff like that, as though the N-word can be made in a positive way. It really can't. But anyway, I don't want to go too far out, but you have a damaged operating system. It is corrupted. Many people try to reset it, reset your mind. Some had tried to reset in the memory of your computer, but they didn't have a cultural operation program. So when the computer reboots after the reset, and if you don't run the proper antivirus, anti-malware software, you will recut back on the computer and re-back install what you thought you have taken away. Now, laying that as a base, God, the Most High, because of what dark people did when they ruled the planet about 2 millennia ago. A little bit previous to that, they denigrated people based on color. I want you to listen to me unlike you never listened before. Dark people lorded it over other peoples. Dark peoples pillaged Eurasian peoples. Eurasian is what you will call the Arab today, the Turks, all in that so-called Middle Eastern peninsula, of their women, and implanted their black seed in those women and had mixed breed children. They ravished those people's homes and villages and took the spoils of war, whether that be anything of any goods, their women, any treasures, and so on and so forth. They did do this. The Egyptians did many things that was evil. You have to know how you got into this condition and how everybody in the world, all other groups of people, hate darker people. If you don't know what you have done, you will go through a system of repeating things. but it will be on a different level, but it will still be a system of repeating. You will be repeating things even on a modern day basis. I want you to listen to me. I want you to listen to me. Did black people ever enslave? They did. The Egyptians enslaved. The Egyptians is nothing more than Ethiopian people that went and colonized that area, which is now called Egypt. That's all it is. And those Ethiopians went and established India. They went and established the Far East and gave those people civilizations and set that up for them. We gave civilization to the Greeks and to the Romans. We even went to Central Africa and established and went clear across to West Africa. And we even went as far as Central America, and some, when they got to Central America, migrated up into North America, and some migrated down into South America. We navigated this planet. The Ethiopian people did that, which is why your European historians call Ethiopia the mother country of modern civilization, because everybody can trace their roots back to Ethiopia, one way, form, or fashion. What I want you to do is stop the bigotry, stop the reverse racism, stop the prejudiceness right now. Stop all this anti-white stuff and pro-black stuff. I want you to stop it. And let's deal as human beings. You want people to treat you as a human being. When you denigrated people because of their color, and then when they turned around and paid you back, paid your ancestors back for what they did to them, you got a problem with it. You think they did it to you first. I know why you thought that. Because your black leaders taught you that. But guess what? They had damaged OS. They had a damaged operating system. So therefore, when you got the viruses in your system, you don't have genetic memory. You can't go back and think about what you have done. You can't go back. Look. Where at in any of your black teachings, right? Show me in the teachings of Marcus Garvey where he says, oh, we did some things to Eurasian peoples. We did some things to African peoples, to those that's on the African continent. We did some things to the Asians. We did some things to the Eurasian peoples, of the so-called Middle Eastern peoples. When did Garvey tell you that? He didn't. But Garvey did tell you, a people without their culture is like a tree without roots. He knew it was something wrong, but he didn't have the cultural information to go deep like I'm going deep today. He didn't have that knowledge. So the UNIA and Garveyism was just a Band-Aid that was placed, or let me say, because we have to keep it with computers and viruses, right? Because that's what we're talking about, damaged operating system. And I'm going to show you what an operating system is for a people in just a second. So let me move quickly. So what Garvey used, because Black America and the African world, it already have a damaged operating system, a corrupted operating system. That means your culture is not working for you. That means it's not working for you. That means you need some upgrades to the computer. Have you ever had a computer that needed upgrades or updated, and you didn't do the updates? Once I had a Windows 7 computer. And so I went into the settings, and I said, man, you don't want all this stuff up in there, right? It's when I was young using computers. So I selected that I would be able to select the updates, and I didn't do it automatically. So on the updates, you'll go in, and then it'll look for updates as you're connecting to the internet. And the internet in this capacity, right? As we're talking about culture and damaged OS and your laptop, your mind, right, and your culture. The internet will be God connectivity, because that's what's over you, right? It's like God connectivity. And so God would always keep you up to date. They will always download new information for peoples into their, into the minds of their leadership and stuff like that. And this will keep these peoples up to date to the times in whatever paradigm that they're living in. And why is that necessary? So then they will be able to be in consolidation with whoever is in power, even if it's not their own power. So therefore, this is why Hispanics, this is why Asians, this is why Arabs, this is why certain groups of Africans, this is why Australians, this is why peoples of Europe and so on and so forth, they could be in consolidation with each other. Why? Because they received the updates. So many of the Africans and many of Black America, because they have corrupted OS, meaning they have viruses and malware in their system, they can't get updates. They don't want the updates. They look at the updates as though it's going to transform them into European peoples. Not understanding. You got to know what to apply and not to apply. And so when you hear them say, I don't want to learn English and speak it like it needs to be spoken, so then when you're defining a word, you can use the word correctly. So now we go around and using words and terms that doesn't even apply. We would name our children names that's not even in the naming dictionary. So therefore, when you look up a Shaniqua, when you look up a Tyrone, what the hell the meaning of that is? They don't know. Is no meaning. And when you're walking around as people without meaning, when you don't know your true name, when you don't know what your culture is, so then you would just use a color in order to justify whatever conditions you in, even if it's slave conditions. You say, I don't want to be Negro because Negro would connect me to slavery. So I'm going to just reterm this as black. Was that a smart move to do? It was a temporary fix. It was, when you're doing these temporary fix of Black America, it's like running a very weak antivirus software after the viruses is already in the system. Don't you know you could run an antivirus software when the viruses is already in the system, and the new antivirus software will not be able to identify the viruses? It would act like it's normal. But as I said to you about the Windows 7 computer that I had, it was an older model, right? You know, one of the first models. It was a Toshiba, right? It was nice. I mean, I paid about like $700 for it. You know, I was going to college at the time, right? Taking some law classes and so on and so forth. And I thought about buying this computer, so I bought it. It had the insurance on it. Nah, I said, no, hell with the insurance. So I had about a year and a half, and I was downloading all kinds of videos. I had a nice memory system on there, right? All kinds of videos and stuff like that, and New World Order stuff, all kinds of stuff. I was trying to keep a nice catalog and stuff like that, and I kept it on the hard drive of the computer. And then with the FBI and CIA and all those, they keep a track of the certain videos and stuff that you download and so on and so forth, right? And so I got this virus on it, but before I got this virus on it, I didn't want to do the updates, right? So then I got ready to use the pre-installed video player. It plays video and audio. I think it's called Windows Media Player, right? So I get ready to play a video, and it wouldn't play. It wouldn't play. Wait a minute, why this isn't playing? Then, as I get into the settings and stuff like that, it indicated that it needed an update. I was like, why didn't it update automatically? It's just the Windows. It's just the media player. No. So I go back, so I look at, it says this particular update needs to be installed to play the audio and video player that comes pre-installed on the computer. And so then I go into the area where you could choose what updates to install and what not to install and so on and so forth, right? And guess what? As you're looking on the title, it just said accumulative maintenance and updates. It's cumulative. I mean, it's all packed together. So you don't know exactly what you're getting. It's cumulative. It's all together, right? And so I said, oh, okay, so it doesn't say just for the media player, but on there it says you need this one to be installed for it to update so then the player can run again. So then that had me stop doing that. And so I click on automatic updates. And as I click automatic updates, guess what? The computer runs fine. Then the Windows Defender, right? For your firewall system and stuff like that. Guess what? Then that stays up, and when that stays up to date with that firewall right there, right? That prohibits things from coming into and infecting your system. Even if you made the mistake of downloading something that you should not have downloaded, right? That it still will help you. Why? Because it's pre-installed. So you can easily go back and then do a reset, or go back and say, on this particular day, just say a 24-hour period, and something begins to be wrong with the computer, you can go back that 24-hour period and say, you know what? Yeah, I did download a few programs. Maybe one of those was infected. Let me go back and take that out. And then the computer will run as it did a few days previous. And sometimes that's all you need. Sometimes that's all you need. Sometimes that's all you need. So with that said, beloved, when black people have a damaged operating system, it means that you don't know when you have downloaded different things, meaning you have done certain things. So therefore, you get the reciprocity. You get the karma coming back unto you. And when that karma comes, you can't be mad. You say, wait a minute. They erased our name. We don't know who we are. Well, true and false. True, you don't call yourself what you are because you have rejected the update. When did black people was getting an update? You was getting the update before you had any of these black leaders talking about you Asiatic. because it was Noble Drew Ali that came up with that concept before. And then you go into Noble Drew Ali's teaching. He tell you that we are not Negro, we are not black, we are not colored. And then he says something very particular. He said, you're not Ethiopian. But wait a minute. You go all over into Egypt talking about he's an Egyptian adept. How you going to be an adept of the Egyptian mystery school? And you don't know, or want to edit out of memory that Ethiopia is the mother country of Egypt. The beginning of each dynasty, of all major dynasties or whatever, you know what I mean? Because we had 31 dynasties, right? At least 18 solid of those dynasties. The original root to those dynasties comes out of Kush, Ethiopia. How you don't know that? How you don't know the history? He didn't know the history. He didn't know the memory. He was void of memory. So then Mr. Muhammad, Elijah Muhammad, he picks up on that. He picks up on that. Oh, we the Asiatic black man. See, he just added black man to it. Had it not been for the Nation of Islam and then inspiring younger students through Malcolm X, then you wouldn't have Kwame Ture or Stokely Carmichael. And then he did some backdooring technique by joining up with the Southern Student Leadership Council, right? I forgot what the whole name is for that, but he was a student, and Martin Luther King, MLK, was working with college students, and in the protesting and the sit-ins and that kind of stuff like that. Stokely Carmichael joined that. And when he joined that, and then once when those news cameras started coming out recording Dr. King and Stokely was showing so much promise and so on and so forth, and so but he was a little bit outspoken. So he comes up there and he got the news cameras right there, and this young student, as they and they say Martin Luther King was doing their little chants and stuff like that. Then all of a sudden, Stokely started chanting, Black Power, Black Power, Black Power. And if you didn't know, calling a colored man or a Negro in that day and time, calling them black, that was an insult. It took some time for the Negro to evolve into that label as black, because they thought the term black was going to fix the problem. But just in the words of John Henry Clark, he was like, black is just a color used to describe something. It doesn't, you could use it to describe your skin if you want, but it doesn't tell you who you are, what you should be doing with your life. So that tells you got damaged OS. You got a damaged culture. And so what they did is that everything that was of Negro culture and Negro comes out of the slave period. You didn't have ancient Negroes. There is no ancient black people. You don't go around calling the Kemites black. You don't even call them Kemites. They Egyptians. Call them what they is. That's what the name of that country is. If you leave it as it is, you will learn something. There was many names that could be applied to that country, even the ancient land of Tamari, the beautiful land. Why did none of the pro-blacks say that? See, because you infatuated with a color. And so now you are caught into a color conspiracy with yourself, because Europeans ain't in that battle with you. Because all it is, it's a Western European, a westernized European concept of a caste system. And whoever is labeled as black is on the bottom of that caste system. So you're wondering why you're at the bottom. Because you're labeled to be at the bottom. You love to be at the bottom. You don't want to straighten nothing out. You don't want to smooth nothing out. You don't want your OS to be corrected. Now, Mr. Muhammad, for instance, and Farrakhan and Malcolm X, right? And later on, Ben Ami and the Hebrew Israelites. They know that you had damaged OS, but they didn't bring an OS. They're not equipped to bring an OS because God didn't make it that way. God was working with Black America, but Black America went off the path. Ethiopia, before any Black leaders get to cooking, get to teaching, Ethiopia had already reached out to Black America. So going inside of the Nation of Islam's literature, you go into English lesson C1. Or no. You go into the Supreme Wisdom, and then go into the Five Percenters, the Nation of Gods and Earth's literature. Inside of both of those literatures, they'll tell you, which is they all coincide together. But those literatures that say nobody came after us or sought about us or tried to change our condition until Farad Muhammad, and that is categorically false. False. Ethiopia was already here. Why? How do you know that? How do I know? You had David Walker's appeal. Go back to David Walker. Doesn't he exist before Garvey came over and before Farad Muhammad, before Noble Jew Ali thought that he would go, and get in some traveling caravan, and then they ended up in Egypt and all this other kind of stuff like that. So he claims. We wasn't there. We don't know. Wasn't there. You're just believing off what somebody is saying. Right or wrong, it doesn't matter. So, the Negro, as they was called back then, this is before Garvey. Before Garvey tried to usurp some of Ethiopia's branding. And really help to bring it to ruin, to make it ambiguous. That's why they use that. They use the true culture, the true connectivity, the true OS to make it ambiguous. They try to make it ambiguous in the mindset of Black people. Man, if you can understand what Black leadership has done to disconnect you from the only country that wasn't colonized by Europeans. That has, Ethiopia has its own cuisine. Ethiopia has its own calendar. Ethiopia have one of the oldest languages on earth that's still in use. Ethiopia has the oldest scriptures on this planet. Ethiopia is the mother country of modern civilization. When Herodotus, Europeans' first historian, go back and check out what he said about Ethiopia and Egypt. He tells you in their writings that the Egyptians get everything from Ethiopia. And it was Ethiopia that reached their hands. They found out where her lost seed had went. Her lost people had went. And with Haile Selassie. See? Y'all don't know, man. Y'all don't know. Making all types of reforms and so on and so forth with the U.S. government and with England and so on and so forth. This is why he was having those meetings and stuff like that. You know what the intent was? The intent was cultural centers and communities inside of America in order to bring the Negro up to date. This is why Haile Selassie said that not only is he king over all dark peoples everywhere, he said that also includes the Negro in America. And if you really want to get technical, Ethiopia means burnt skin. Or some may say in a more romantic way, Ethiopia means those that has been kissed by the sun. So if you kissed, you are kissed with that darker pigmentation. Is that correct? So really all black people really should be calling themselves Ethiopians. Really and truly, I understand what Mr. Muhammad did with his dietary program and so on and so forth, but really and truly, if we're going to begin to fix the OS in Black America, they need a cuisine that ties to a country. I understand what Garvey did with the red, black, and green, but Garvey missed the mark. Since he wanted to connect to Ethiopia, he should have been raising up the flag of Ethiopia with the Lion of Judah on it. Now, shouldn't he? So that means then your flag and your cuisine could be fixed. Your culture could be fixed. Then, cast off all that Asiatic stuff. Cast out all these mythical stories that we was Moorish. We was some ancient lost foul nation of Islam or whatever. That shit doesn't exist. It's fallacious. Fallacious. Having you believe in a mystery God. Farad is a mystery God. Where is he at? Tell him to show up. Tell him to show up. He's a mystery God. Was he born in India or was he born in New Zealand? Was he born in the holy city of Mecca? Tell them to tell y'all the truth about when they went over to Mecca. Because he said, through Mr. Muhammad, that he was from the Quraysh. Don't you know those Arabs over there at the holy city of Mecca, since this is supposed to be the very tribe of Prophet Muhammad, don't you know they know every single person that is of the Quraysh from that time all the way down to now. And guess what? Farad ain't in that lineage. Did they tell you that? Did they tell you that? I'm not saying there's no good things in the Nation of Islam, but the God thing is way off. But if you disconnect that God, which is like a USB port plugging into your OS, trying to install something in there that doesn't need to be installed. So what am I saying here? Then you go into the Hebrew Israelites, and they ask is just as disingenuous. I'm seeing these mainline Hebrew Israelites upholding Judaism, talking about they, the original Jew. They're lying. They're not the original Jew. The original Jew is the people that invented Judaism. And Judaism wasn't invented by black people. I was a rabbi. I know what I'm talking about. And I can tell you who invented it. The two men responsible for that religion. And it ain't ancient either. Why? That if black people or let's say the African Jews, if they the oldest, where's their Passover Haggadah, that little book? Why don't they have they're more of an ancient Seder and that whole ritual of Passover, The whole manual for that and how you do all of that, that comes out of Europe. The oldest synagogues ain't in Africa. The yarmulke, the talith, and all of that, that's European invention. That's not come out of the Bible, come out of the biblical world. Y'all been tricked. You've been had. You've been bamboozled. You've been run amok. You've been led astray. You've been absolutely deceived, going around talking about you, the true Jew. Talking about you, the true Muslim. You, the true Christian. You can't claim any of that if you ain't of Ethiopian lineage. Why? Because after Akhenaten established monotheism, which is the belief in one universal God, not a God that's flesh and blood, a God that's universal, who makes it to rain on the just and the wicked, who makes his light shine on the just and the wicked, who feeds and nourishes the earth, that don't need your damn prayer, that don't need your help, that don't need your money. He is self-sustaining. He's omnipotent. He's omniscient. He's omnipresent. If your God ain't all that, then he ain't God. God damn it. You got damaged OS, and people keep coming. These foreigners keep coming and injecting their bullshit into our minds. That is believing in white Arabs is superior to black people. And the Arabs have always thought that they were superior because they want us to remember the fact that we pillaged their peoples. So now they're in positions and control over us. Now you go your ass back into classical Islam and see how Shaitan and the jinn is depicted. And they depict it as black. Since you want to say, yeah, that's our original religion. Use a goddamn lie. You lying. And you have taken these people's religion to become just like them. And the more closer and closer that you apply Islam to your life, you become just like them. Why? Because that's their cultural OS. That's in their religion. That's why if you use Christianity and the more you devote yourself to it, what do you become? You become just like the white Christian. And that's why the Hebrew Israelites of Dimona and those that came out of Ethiopia that was airlifted, they lifted them up out of there, and then Operation, I forget what it was called, Operation something. But anyway, Operation Moses, I think it was. And then they took them over there into Israel. So the world could believe that Israel was going to be a diverse, multi-ethnic type of land. Yeah, when you look at it. But in reality, it's still racist. It's racism, as Dr. Collins said, and Minister Farrakhan said, in Arabia. So how is that the true religion? When you go back into classical Islam, when you go back into classical Judaism, and black people is the devil. Black people are evil. Because they want the world to remember the atrocities that the black Egyptians, the dark-skinned Egyptians, had done to the Europeans and to the Eurasian world. Now you go back and you look up the 9 bows, B-O-W-S, of Egypt, and look at the enemies of Egypt. Most of them are black. Most of them are, quote unquote, what we call black today. And they have some Europeans in there too. They used to call the Europeans collectively the Tamahu, wicked, leprous peoples. But where did these wicked, leprous peoples come out of? They came out of African peoples. What you have as Europeans today came out of you because you have a damaged OS. And you will not get the updates. Racism and white supremacy wouldn't exist if you just do the updates. It would have no hold on you. But you refuse to get the updates. So you are existing in the United States of America, which is a small umbrella of those that receive the worst of the worst treatment in a very short period of time to show the world who is God. And what did the Creator do? He said in the scriptures he was going to use the Gentile as a whooping rod on you. This is why you was enslaved by the Arab for 1,000 years on the African continent. Tell Farrakhan to tell you that. All this black stuff y'all talking about. Let's tell the damn truth. Elijah Muhammad said that Farad Muhammad gave him to read 103, 104 books. Different places. He can go and find these books. So he went out traveling, seeing these books, trying to read them and stuff like that. And he said, according to Farrakhan and what I was told, he said most of the books he read was on the life of Prophet Muhammad. Hold on. Pause for a second. I ain't got no problem with that. Then it was this notion that no devils could be allowed in the holy city of Mecca. Come on, we're going to have to bring Malcolm X in on this testimony. Then he went over there. He saw white people and so on and so forth. I'm not saying that Malcolm was mystified or anything by seeing white people do all of that, and he had been over there before. I believe it was in 1959, previous, right? Before he did his thing to Mecca in the 64, I believe it was, right? But he didn't mention any racism or anything like that. He believed that if Islam, that's over there, could be used over here in the United States, that the whites could straighten things out and therefore we can eliminate racism. It was a good attempt. But you got to really understand the roots of Islam. You got to really understand that no prophethood could come to any other group of peoples other than biblical peoples. So there is no prophethood for Prophet Muhammad. There's no prophet. Listen. It was said that all the prophets have tried to reform the devil, and he can't be reformed. Oh, and Moses, when he went up to teach them, he had to put himself in the ring of fire because they was going to kill him, and so on and so forth. What Moses? The only Moses that we have in history that taught the European peoples about a little over 1,000 years ago was a man of, his name was Rabbi Moses Maimonides. Moses Maimonides. And they revere him. The Jew really and truly don't revere the biblical Moses, because the biblical Moses, for all intents and purposes, he was an Egyptian. So they use that as a cover. The real Moses for them is Moses Maimonides. They abbreviate his name as an acronym. Rambam, Rambam. And he wrote this book called The Guide for the Perplexed. The Guide for the Perplexed. That is what Judaism is based off of. That and that alone. If you don't know that, you don't know a damn thing about Judaism. They can go into rituals that you will find inside of the Bible and stuff like that, but nah, don't get it twisted. You got to know their stuff. I know their stuff. I know their stuff. Now I can tell you, when the Hebrew Israelites and those ones that was airlifted out of Ethiopia over there, you know, see, we never had these multiple tribes and stuff like that, the 12 tribes, and all that is fallacious. That's what the Jew added to the story. Ain't no damn 12 tribes. They using that to divide your black ass. Why don't they say they the children of Israel? They don't say that. They call themselves Israeli and Jews. Are you going around calling yourself the children of Israel? Because you are their children. You the children of Israel. Israel's that country. You they children. And they got you divided up in 12 tribes. All divided up in 12 tribes. Hence that word divided. And you think you bright. You a wannabe Jew. But you ain't the original Jew. The letter J wasn't even invented until 1630s. So how you the original Jew and your ass just now speaking broken English? Get your ass up out of here with that. What was the Jew called before the word Jew was invented? That's for you to do some homework. I know what they was called. You don't. But you the original Jew though. Okay. All right, Hebrew Israelite. Okay. And then y'all sit up there and uphold all this other kind of stuff. You get your ass all the way over into Israel, and then they say, "Oh, y'all ain't of Judah, y'all of the tribe of Dan, the cursed tribe." Then they pull that cursed bullshit out on y'all because you over there genuflecting to them. Why? Because you believe in their religion. You got damaged. OS. That is not your land. It doesn't belong to them. It belongs to the Ethiopians. That's our land. Egypt belongs to us too. All that Middle Eastern peninsula is our land. We ruled over that. And as long as we ruled, we kept everything in its place. Now you go back into history and then you prove I'm wrong. You go back and you prove that before the Europeans renamed Africa, named that continent Africa, it was called Ethiopia before Upper and Lower Ethiopia. Why? Because we ruled over it. You got damaged OS, so you don't know this. You got damaged OS. Now, if the black Muslims were smart, they would have followed the lead of Imam W.D. Muhammad, but they didn't do that. He changed to Muhammad speaks to the Bilalian speaks. They still don't even understand what the man was doing. He was reconnecting you back to that original Ethiopic roots of what they call Islam today. But they couldn't handle that. So he had to just go the rather orthodox Islamic way. Because he said, no, you know what? Somebody else in the future, he would have to correct this. So let me just do what the Honorable Master Elijah